What's going on, everyone? It's Sean from All Things EV, and I am on a mission to get one or two more videos out by the end of 2019. And this one is all about EV range. Some people say that it's important, other people say that it's not. And this video is going to address why I think it is still the king feature, the top feature for an electric vehicle. Now, I've been thinking about this Taycan EPA range ever since it came out a few weeks ago, and I've been internally conflicted because I think the car is beautifully designed. It looks gorgeous on the exterior. I'm even pleased about the interior, even though some people have some gripes about some of the features. Yet, the range on this was far less than I think what a lot of people were expecting, and myself included. I was really hoping that it would get closer to the 300 miles. The purpose of this video is to address why range should be the top priority for automakers who are putting out an electric vehicle. I recently had someone comment on one of my videos and tell me that Porsche owners don't buy their vehicles for efficiency, but they buy them for performance. I quickly replied back that in order to have performance, you must have range. And here's what I mean. If you have a 200-mile Taycan, as beautiful as it is, and you're driving this vehicle how Porsche has designed it, you're probably not driving the speed limit. That means that this 200-mile range will be significantly less. And don't forget that the range is also slightly reduced when weather gets below freezing. But let's just assume that you live in a country where people never speed, you only travel 50 miles per day, and charge your vehicle at home. Will an EV that has 200 miles be sufficient? It probably will. But the moment you want to take that car on a road trip, you will be stopping every 150 to 175 miles to charge. And while the EV charging infrastructure is good, it is not as dense as gas stations are in 2020. This means you'll be charging more often in the Taycan than, say, a performance Model S, an EV that has 348 miles of range, and you'll probably be stopping every 300 to 325 miles if you're taking this Model S on a road trip. And what's truly remarkable about what Tesla has done is that the performance Model S from year 2012 has 265 miles of range. And so to date, no other vehicle on the market right now, no other electric vehicle at least, has managed to top Tesla's 2012 Model S. This is something to really pay attention to. I know that there's a lot of people who say that Tesla doesn't have the technology, that there's nothing special about Tesla vehicles, there's nothing special about their batteries and their electric motors. Well, I would say that if nothing is special about them, why haven't we seen any automakers who have billions of dollars to spend on R&D been able to come out with something that competes with Tesla's year 2012 vehicle? In this 200-mile range electric vehicle, I know exactly what it's like to drive one, because when I first bought my Model S that I have currently, it had a 60 kilowatt hour pack in it, and it went about 201 miles. And then of course over time that began to degrade. I know how often I had to stop. Now granted, in my day job I do drive quite a bit, but whenever we went on family road trips, let's say an hour south from Denver to Colorado Springs or an hour north, we would most definitely have to stop before heading back up to Denver with that smaller battery. And so more range is always better because it means that you don't have to stop as often. I'm fortunate enough to own a Tesla that has a relatively built out fast charging network. So though it was a little bit inconvenient to have to spend time stopping to charge the vehicle in order to get home, it was something that I was able to rely on pretty consistently. If I had a really busy day in real estate, let's say that I had multiple clients that I was meeting with all throughout town who wanted to see multiple houses, I would be in some situations where I would have to stop in between meetings to charge my vehicle. So when someone is considering a vehicle like the Porsche Taycan that only gets 201 miles, is it really worth the $150,000 to $200,000 that this vehicle costs? Is that performance, or are those luxury features that are going to be in this Porsche enough to convince a buyer to go with the Porsche brand over something like a Tesla performance vehicle. Only you who's considering that can make that decision. I'm just thinking that range is a bigger deal than what Porsche is really letting on. In fact, I queried my followers on Twitter about what features they thought were most important when considering an electric vehicle. And the features that they had to choose from were range, performance, self-driving or driver assist features, and price. Of the more than 3,100 people who responded to this survey, 54% said that range was the most important thing. Why is range the most important thing for people when considering an EV? I suspect it's because range of EVs is not quite on par with gasoline vehicles. Yet, the most efficient Model 3 available on the market today travels 322 miles on a single charge for about $50,000. The most efficient fully gassed Toyota Corolla, on the other hand, will travel close to 450 miles for about $22,000. At some point when EV range is on par with gas and charging infrastructure is equally dense as gas stations, range may not be as important as other features, but until then, range should be the top priority for automakers. And this is something that really perplexes me. Why haven't automakers been able to put out something that's more competitive with the market leader in electric vehicles? If they've got billions of dollars in the bank and they're able to spend more, what are the reasons why we're not seeing more competitive electric vehicles? There's a few reasons. One of them is because legacy automakers take a while to change and transition. They're large companies with internal cultures that stifle innovation and quick changes. In fact, I would go so far as to say that many traditional automakers are averse to change and innovating. They're big ships, and big ships take longer to turn. Young companies like Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid Motors, they don't have that entrenched culture, those people that have been at the company for decades that care more about their career than they do about advancing the mission of sustainability and reducing use of carbon emissions. It took more than 10 years for these traditional automakers to say that they need to electrify their fleet, or at least they need to come out with some electric vehicles to address that growing market. But have some of these traditional automakers been too slow to react? Is Tesla too far ahead for these automakers to catch up? I guess only time will tell, but it is something that is a growing concern for me. Competition is good, and I think that in order for Tesla to win in their mission to advance sustainable energy in transportation, they're going to need the help and assistance of some of these larger companies to help produce more vehicles and get gasoline and diesel vehicles off the road. This is one of the reasons why in previous videos I've floated the idea of traditional automakers licensing out Tesla's Gen 1 or Gen 2 batteries. And I would also add to that licensing out Tesla's electric motors is not a terrible idea either. Is this something that these traditional automakers would be open to as they start to ramp up their own R&D, their own gigafactories where they can produce their own batteries and have more control over the cost of the battery pack? I really hope so, because my concern with some of these traditional automakers is that they've been too slow to react, and obsolescence may be something that some of these automakers will be facing in the very near future. I'm talking to you, Honda and Toyota, who have publicly said that electric vehicles are not a viable option. I'm also concerned about Fiat Chrysler, who do not have a viable electric product either. European automakers seem to be on board because of government regulation. US automakers are a little bit further behind. Korean automakers seem to be thinking about electric vehicles as well. And we don't really know how the future will unfold, but it appears like as Tesla begins to sell more vehicles each year, they prove out their theory that electric vehicles can be viable options. They can be used for everyday use, and they're not just niche vehicles. For myself, I can't wait to see what Tesla is going to show all of us at their battery and powertrain investor day sometime in early 2020. I think it's going to be the next iteration of batteries, this new generation of batteries that will not only reduce the cost for everyone who's producing an electric vehicle, but it will also extend the range of these electric vehicles, I expect. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like and share it out to someone who you think might find it beneficial as well. A huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for believing and supporting me in this content that I create on YouTube. Sean Mitchell, All Things EV. I'll catch everyone on the next video.